Welcome to part 4 of generic O-scale horse-drawn wagon. Today we're going to do the cargo box. The cargo boxes had a lot of variety, and this is one of the early ones I made. This is made out of styrene, and it's just scribed to look as though they're individual boards, but we're going to make individual boards today. The thing that we need to start to think about when we're doing this is, where does the frame fall under the box, and what is the box's purpose? On this one, I had the box go a foot forward of the front buffer and or bolster, and a foot to the rear of the rear bolster or buffer, and this is what it looked like underneath. It was satisfactory. I thought it was okay, but this next one that I make with you today, I want to have the end of the wagon project beyond the end of the wheels. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I have the two pieces here that we've made. We have the rear suspension and the front suspension with the hitch and drop tongue on it. So I'd like to have a wagon that has a 10-foot box. If I'm going to have it extend 1 foot in front of the front bolster, I need to add that on, and 1 foot or 2 feet behind the rear bolster. 2 feet brings it right to the edge of my wheels. I think I'm going to go an extra foot, so we'll go 3 feet. So 1 foot overhang at front and 3 feet overhang in the rear for a total overhang of 4 feet. I want the box to be 10 feet, so my bolsters have to be 6 feet apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rear bolster, I'm going to measure forward 6 feet from the kingpin that's holding that rear bolster in, and I'm going to go ahead and make a hole. It turns out the previous hole that we drilled for the adjustable bar was already in the right spot. So mine is going to be 6 feet out. A quick test fit of this suggests that there may be a little bit of interference with the reach plate onto the sway bar. So I think what I'm going to do is bring that right to the edge of that. It looks like about a 6.5 foot distance between the rear bolster and front bolster. So I'm going to go drill a hole at 6.5 feet. This is what will go through the kingpin in the front suspension. This will be the pivot point of the wagon, where the front wheels pivot relative to the rear wheels. So I have my 6.5 foot length. Quick eyeball check of that 6.5 foot length suggests that there will be very little interference of the reach plate with the sway bar, so I think that's where we're going to go. We now have too much length on the reach bar, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of slack up front, but we're going to cut that off. We'll remove the kingpin. I'm going to expand that hole just a little, make it easier for the kingpin to find the hole in the receiver tongue, the reach tongue. So let's put that up there. Slide that under the sandbar and above the front axle beam. I think I've got it there. We'll put the drill down it and see if it goes through. It does. Bear with me. Wow, we've had the front axle beam come off of the assembly. With that front axle beam repaired, we'll turn the whole construct over, making sure down is down for all the parts. we'll push that reach rod right up into the space between the sandbar and the front axle beam. Get our kingpin holes aligned. Put the kingpin and the front bolster back down through the holes. There we go. So our running gear is now ready to accept our cargo box. For my cargo box, I've picked up a sheet of 1/32 inch basswood, and I'll cut my pieces out of it. The bed of most of these wagons was constructed with 3 1/4 inch tongue and groove. 3 1/4 inch in O-scale is smaller than I can work with, so I have cut mine at 6 inch lengths. I've cut enough to make the bed of our wagon. I've also cut some 9 inch wide material. We're going to use this for the seat a little later. So let's begin by cutting our 6 inch wide strips for the length of the box that we're going to use. And remember that I said that I wanted to have a 10-foot box. Laying my strips out on my scale rule, making sure all 3 of my strips are square. I come out to my 10-foot mark, and I'll cut my first few. Let's bring the running gear back in. So we have those upright cleats, and I measure mine to be 4 foot 3 inches apart. So I think what I'll do is I'll shoot for a 4 foot wide bed. And as I look at my material, six boards is not yet wide enough. That's 3 feet. We'll cut 3 more boards. Let's measure how wide they are. It is 4 foot 3 inches. That's without any serious compression on them. Good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to secure these into a flat panel. We're back, and we're going to start to build the platform for the box. I'm going to use white glue as the construction adhesive here because I might want to stain this. I don't want to have the super glue cause any problems. Most likely I'm going to aerosol paint it, but I wanted to just show you how we're going to do this with white glue. I've put a little bit here on a small plastic cup, and I'll dip from there. You've seen me use this technique in some previous videos. It's masking tape turned upside down with the adhesive side facing up. And I'm going to do that because I shake so badly that the work will fly around the workbench if I don't do it. I've drawn a center line and a perpendicular line on the tape. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the boards for our bed onto the masking tape. This will hold it square and flat and together for me. So all my pieces are square. When we look at the underneath side, we can see that there are some cross braces that hold the bed together. I don't know if this is accurate for every wagon, but that's what we're going to do today. The first thing that we want to do is put on some bracing for the front and rear that goes all the way across the boards. I'm going to use my 16th by 16th material, and I want this to project at least a foot beyond the bed. And remember, our bed was about 4 foot 3 inches wide, so that would mean I'd need 6 foot. I'm going to cut this at about 7 feet. I need 2 of these. We can trim this to length later. You'll see what we're going to do with it. So I've got 2 of these at 7 inches, or 7 feet. Let's take a look at the underframe components. I know that I wanted to have the front edge about a foot back from the front bolster, about a foot back from the front edge of the wagon. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a very light mark there to give me an idea of where that is. So there's 1 foot. And 1 foot. When we place the wagon in that position, you can see that the rear bolster comes to about here and here. There's the width of my rear bolster, width of my front bolster. Now what we want to do is we want to make a mark where this brake hanger is. We don't want any of our underbracing to interfere with that. So that's where our brake hanger beam is. So now I want to have a few other cross braces under here. I'd like to have 2 cross braces in the middle that'll project out beyond the edges, and they'll have a piece of wood between them, and this will be a step or a shelf. Knowing that I have a 2 foot radius on my wheels on the rear, I know that that rear brace has to be at least, so I'll go down the middle of where my rear axle cap is, and I'll go 2 feet. So that's where the wheel is. The front wheels are probably going to be a little smaller. I don't think they'll be 3 feet, but let's assume they're 3.5 feet. So that'd be about a 21-inch radius. So right there, I can't have anything inside of those two marks. So as I look at this, I'm going to put my scale rule up there. I'm going to say it would be nice, I guess, if they were at 4 feet. And no, let's make it 5 1/4 feet and 3 3/4 feet. So that's where my two cross braces are going to go for my step and water barrel holder, those sorts of things. So I'll go ahead and make a square line to guide me. I'll use the square edge of my scale ruler to do it. There's the position of one of them. There's the position of another. Again, we need these to project a little bit beyond the bed platform. So I'm again just going to cut these to 7 feet. I assume we're going to trim them shorter later. The bed is dry enough now that we can take a look at some of the fit. So I've taken and I've placed it on top of our running gear, and I have the front bolster positioned about a foot behind the front, and we can see that we have an overhang of about 2 feet on the rear. And looking on the bottom side, we can see that the shelf cross braces don't interfere with the brake hanger beam, so we've got a nice fit. So we're going to set this aside and let it dry some more. In the meantime, let's go ahead and start on the sideboards. These are real variable among the manufacturers. I've gone and I've cut mine to 9 inches width. So what I want to do is start to put some of the side braces on them. I've gone ahead and I've cut about 16 of these 2-foot long pieces that are 1/16 by 1/16 per mine. This is my small stock. And what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and glue some of these cleats, braces, onto these sideboards. So what I'll do is just a little bit of glue on the end of the board. Here. And here. And the same on its neighboring board. Here. And here. When we put this cleat on, this brace, it's going to project down the side, and it's going to have to go the width of one of these boards down. So let's give just a little bit extra on there. We could butt one of these boards up against it and see how much we need to have it protrude downward, and that's about right. Do the other one. just a tad long. Push it back. That looks good. So we'll set those two aside to dry. We'll do the same thing with these two. With those cleats fairly dry, we want to put some more cleats on the inside of our wagon walls, sides. This time, however, these braces are going to be flush with the bottom of the board. With the side braces dry, we're now going to attach the sideboards to the base of the wagon. So off camera, I've gone ahead and I've attached the sideboards to the bed of the box, and it's had time to dry. The next thing we need to do is we need to work on the end boards and some boards for the seat. So what we want to do is we want to cut 3 or 4 boards that are the length of the inside of the box. If you cut 4 boards, you're going to have them stacked too high. That'll match the sideboards for both front and back. I'm going to just put 2 on the front and 1 on the rear, as though somebody was a little lazy and wanted to be able to reach over and put something in. So I'm only going to make 3 of the inside end boards. The seat is going to sit on 2 more 9-inch boards that go across the whole width of the box. So again, mine was 4 foot 3 inches, so I've cut these to that length, just a little longer. These end boards are normally held in place with a channel that we're going to create here in a moment with some more of our braces, the 16th by 16th inch. But I'm going to go ahead and glue mine in so that it strengthens the wagon. So I'm going to come to my front, and remember mine has a front, so I have to make sure I'm doing that. And I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the inside of this brace. And then I'm going to take my end boards and I'm going to slide them down into position. Okay, with the end boards in place, it's time to place a few more of the cleats. And what we want to do is place one on the inside of each corner. You can imagine that if the end boards were not glued in place and you had that cleat there, you'd be able to slide the end boards up and down. So let's go ahead and place those. The next brace we want to put on is going to be here on above the step cross beams. And on my wagon, because we can take this sideboard out if we wanted to have a lower bed, the bracing is not going to extend all the way up to the top. So I've measured my distance from junction of the two boards down to the top of the brace, and it's about 1 foot. So I now want to go ahead and just put that cross brace on the wagon. So with the vertical brace in place above the step cross member, I've gone ahead and I've put in a 6-inch board to act as a step or as a small shelf, and we'll do that on this side.